In this video we're going to look at homework from Chapter 1, Section 1.2, Question 2. You're given two graphs. This is f of x and this is g of x. And you're supposed to find the answers to a series of questions regarding sums and differences. And I want to bring back this listing from the text, which we actually did not get a chance to go over in class on Friday. But basically it's saying that the limit as x approaches a of the sum of two functions is the sum of the limits of those individual functions. So again, the limit of the sum is the sum of the limits. Here, the limit of the difference of two functions is the difference of the limits. Here, you can guess the product and quotient of limits is equal to the product of each of the individual limits. So the limit of the product equals the product of the limits, and the limit of the quotient is equal to the quotient of the limits, provided that the second limit is not equal to 0. And same thing here, if you take the nth root of a function f and you want to know what the limit of that is, well, that's the same thing as taking the limit of the function and then taking the nth root of that. So it's the nth root of the limit, provided that this is not a negative number, because otherwise that would make this complex number, and if n is even. So there we go. These are what we're going to use in order to answer these questions. So let's move this out of the way, and let's try the first one. So what is the limit of the sum of the functions as x approaches 2? So that's going to be the first one. The first limit here, as x approaches 2, it looks like from both the negative side and the positive side, the limit is 0. Even though the function is defined here at 1, the limit is 0. So we have 0 here, and then over here, as x approaches 2, we have 0 here and 0 here. So we have 0 plus 0, and so that answer would simply be 0. Alright, let's go down to the next one. Says, what's the limit as x approaches 0 of the sum? So now here, this is tricky, because the limit doesn't exist as we approach 0, because from the left, the limit looks like it's 1, but from the right, the limit appears to be negative 2. So I don't even have to look at what's happening over here. If the limit of the sum, if the limit of either of the functions doesn't exist, then the limit of the sum is not going to exist. So I'm going to write D and E for does not exist, and it says to do that right here in the directions. Okay, let's look at the third one. The limit as x approaches 0 from the positive direction of those two. So now, as we approach the 0 from the positive side, we get negative 2. And let's see, as we approach 0 from the positive side over here, this is negative 2, and this appears to be positive 2 as x approaches 0 from the positive side. So we have negative 2 plus positive 2, so a total of 0. Now let's go down to the next one here. The sum as x approaches 0 from the negative. Okay, well, from the negative here, it looks as though the limit is approaching 1 as we approach 0, and here it's approaching 2. So we have 2 plus 1, so that should be 3. And then, okay, so now here we have a quotient, and the quotient of the limit of a quotient is the quotient of the limits. So as x approaches 2 of f of x, we have, as x approaches 2 of f of x, again we have 0. So it really doesn't even matter what this bottom is here, because it's going to be 0 on the top, unless this is negative 2, in which case it wouldn't exist. But let's just look at what happens as x approaches 2 of g of x. Let's see, as x approaches 2, nope, it equals 0. So it looks like we're set, because we get 0 over 2 plus 0, So I'm going to put in 0 here. Okay, 3 plus g of x divided by f of x. Okay, so the limit as x approaches 2 of g of x and f of x. So the limit as x approaches 2 of g of x, this is 0 and 0. So it's 0 and 0. So that would be 3 plus 0. As x approaches 2 of f of x, that's 0. So that's not good. Right? As f of x approaches, oops. Yeah, no, as f of x approaches 2, it's 0 on the denominator, so that does not exist. So we're going to have to put d and e here. Okay. Okay, the limit as x approaches 0 of f of x, square root. Well, again, the limit as x approaches 0 of f of x doesn't exist because you've got, from the positive side. Okay. So from the positive side, it looks to be -2. So you're going to have the square root of -2, which doesn't exist. And now the square root of f of x as x approaches 0 from the negative side. Okay, so now we're coming in this way. That appears to be 1. And the square root of 1 is 1. So there's 1 for that one. And now let's submit our answers, see how we did. Okay, we got them all correct, so that's a good thing. I hope this video has helped. If you have any questions, please email me.